Good afternoon and welcome back to Dockside here in Hobart on behalf of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia. And some excitement because we have another boat about to finish here. Joining me is the voice of Australian sailing, Peter Shipway. We've had 10 finishes, but number 11 about to come up.
Yes, good afternoon, Gordon. That's a little wind in the river. It's a bit cold here and a bit of rain, so a bit of everything as a typical Hobart day delivers. And the boats are starting to come in now, and there's going to be a big avalanche of boats tomorrow and tomorrow evening, I think.
Well, lots of excitement to come in this report, including a special feature on Ollie the Cat, who's about to enter Bass Strait. But anyway, let's now take you to Lisa Darmingham, who's with Celestial. Sam Haynes. Okay, no, we'll be going to Lisa a little later, but Peter, we're coming down to the finish here for Sam Haynes. There's Rest Point Casino. And there again, we've seen this lack of breeze close to the finishing line, but the TP52s have had a terrific struggle.
Yes, it's a bit shifty in the river. There's some massive wind shifts, but we're on Celestial, winner last year, relegated to second the year before on a protest. And it wasn't a race for these TP52s. I said earlier today when we were covering this, these boats have been very potent, winning most of the races out of Sydney and recent Hobart races. It just wasn't their weather. They couldn't get into the weather pattern that drove the bigger boats home and the mini maxis. So it'll be disappointing for Sam. It's a very hard thing to do, Gordon, to defend the crown. It's only been done a couple of times in the history of the race. Of course, the Halversons did it 3 times in 63, 64 and 65, but there's Celestial. They will be disappointed, I think, with their performance because there's a couple of other TP52s that have beaten them to the punch. Smuggler got home earlier and Caro was the leading TP52. So at the moment they could, Celestial could be in their division, maybe get a prize, but we won't know until all the boats are in. But at the moment she's lying second in her division. Ocean Crusaders, Jaybird is still on the race course, but still with 39 miles to go. She could displace her into second place, but it looks at the moment that Celestial will be third in her division, and overall she could be, well, she could be anywhere in, we'll have a look at that. I'm looking off camera here at the tracker. She'll be down probably in somewhere 8th, 9th, 12th position, something like that. But a wonderful boat. Sam, the skipper, is a vet. And he's also the Vice Commodore of the organising club, the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia. Most of the crew from last year's winning crew are on board. Jack McCartney's the sailing master, a young former 18-foot skiff sailor, an outstanding sailor, and a young crew on board. And here they are coming up on port tack to the finish, and Caro and Smuggler already safely tucked up in the dock.
Yes, the crew including a number of graduates, Peter, from the CYCA Youth Sailing Academy, which you have been involved with, and the navigator, James Dack, also on board. And no, that's not right?
I don't think so. I don't think he's on board this year, Gordon. He was on board last year for the Victory, but I think he did get replaced. I'm not sure why, but I think he lives in Hong Kong, actually.
So it might be a little bit difficult for him, yes.
Yeah.
But this boat is the former, it was built in 2011. It's a well-performed boat. It was the former Audi All-for-One, BCom, Temptation 3 and Ambition, and bought by Sam Haynes in 2019. And it's won 8 trophies last year. They needed a wheelbarrow to wheel it out of the Grand Chancellor at the prize game.
Yes, you can just see the breeze coming down the river from the northwest. It's been streaky all day. It was very fresh at about 11 o'clock today. It dissipated somewhat, but now it's a lovely sailing breeze, albeit it's cold. And these boys, no doubt, that they'll be very happy to get here. You can just see a few whitecaps springing up on the River Derwent here. But they'll be happy to get here, but I think very disappointed in the performance. I mean, although they weren't going to win the race overall, they could have won the divisional prize, and that's eluded them as well. But, you know, they look back on their career. They've won the Hobart race. They've been second in the Hobart race. Gee, there's a lot of yachts that have come to Hobart and haven't even got close to those credentials. So the second and the first is pretty impressive, but this has not been their year.
And Peter, just to correct myself, Alex Nolan is the navigator.
That's right, yep.
On Celestial,
yep.
And in his 17th Rolex Sydney Hobart, so a very experienced man.
Was that a deliberate setup to see if I was listening, Gordon?
Well, you were listening. That was the main thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that headsail sheeted very close into the mast. They angle and they sheet these headsails these days are remarkably close to get these boats high-winded. And from the days of 20 or 30 years ago, and the headsail was probably out on the rail, they've just kept bringing them in and cutting the sails to suit. And they're just about to tack. You can see the guy down to leeward rock winding the new runner on. There he goes, winding that runner on to stabilise the mast and get the forestay tight as they tack on to starboard. They've still got a little way to go. The breeze, there's plenty of breeze to the finish. Just see who's steering now. It might be Sam steering, I think, the owner. I think it's got Sam on his wet weather gear. So that's Dr. Sam at the wheel, and the trimmer's just trimming that headsail in on the coffee grinder. Different to a lot of these TP52s, they some of them have a tiller to steer. There's the finishing buoy just going out of shot now, that yellow triangular buoy. This boat's got steering wheels, twin steering wheels that the skipper moves from side, the helmsman moves from side to side when they tack. Some of the other TP52s have got a tiller. It's right on the cut-off size of whether you have a tiller or a wheel, and some have opted for the wheel, and some have opted for the tiller, and here's a boat with the twin steering wheels.
At the press conference leading into the event, Sam Haynes made the comment that when you put a crew together, it's all about picking good people you want to be with, mates, and really enjoying the experience. It's about finding the balance, Peter, between enjoyment and also being at the cutting edge of competitive nature. So
yeah, I think a lot of boats, Gordon, look at compatibility before ability. That's the balance. I mean, you can't spend 3 or 4 days with guys that you don't get on with. I mean, it'd be nothing worse than a wrecker campaign for a boat. So you try and look at ability and compatibility and get the best of the two and weld that into a top-class team.
What about those waterfronts there, Peter, at Battery Point? Some of the most expensive real estate in Tasmania for sure. Beautiful spot there. And just off to the right-hand side there in the top is the finishing line off Castray Esplanade.
Yeah, and just see streaks of wind coming down near the finishing buoy there, a little darkness on the water. So she's a couple of minutes away from finishing. She will have another tack at least to lay into the finishing line, unless she gets lifted on starboard tack. But the press boat's around her and giving everyone here at the dock, she's going to get a good welcome, traditional Hobart welcome.
That's the CSIRO headquarters there, Peter, and their big vessel moored away on the right-hand side. And it'll be heading down to the Antarctic region very shortly. They like to look at the ocean floor and see what's down there. Yeah, the other point we were talking about, Bass Strait, how shallow Bass Strait is, Peter.
Yes, I believe it is.
Yeah, only 60 metres. A lot of sand dunes down there, apparently.
Well, that's why the winds and the waves can get so treacherous down there when those sou'westers belt through the straits or the westerlies. She's only about 30 seconds away from the line she should tack. There she goes. She's tacking onto port, and she'll lay into the finish here. And there's the crew. There's the inner finishing mark and the outer finishing mark just top in the middle of right of screen. And job done. And she is over the line, and another Hobart is done for her, and she will be across the line, Gordon, and she will be the 11th yacht to finish. There they are, they're across. Congratulations all round, and I'm sure that they'll reflect on the performance, and that they can reflect that they have won the Tattersalls Cup, and in the 78 years of this great race, there's not many boats that can say they've won the Tattersalls Cup, but this is certainly one of them. But I'm sure Sam will be back next year and try and have another shot at it and try and get his second win in this great event.
Well, they've had a terrific battle, haven't they, with Smuggler and also Caro, the other TP52s. 3 days, 3 hours, and 12 minutes was their finishing time for Celestial, the boat that won the race last year. And in fact, as Peter mentioned, finished first on Handicap unofficially the year before, but then was relegated to second on protest. So very well performed boat, but it just wasn't their weather pattern in 2023.
No, well, she's across, and the next boat is just in the river, Teasing Machine from France. She's just entered the Derwent. So she'll be a good hour away for sure, probably even a bit longer, and she will be the 12th to finish. But as I said, the TP52s, they're 52 feet in length, and the first TP on Handicap will be Smuggler, who did a very good job. She's been thereabouts in Sydney
Bone.
racing, yeah, and the highly credentialed Steve McConaughey was aboard as the sailing master. So she will lead the TP52s on corrected time. I think Celestial will probably be second, and she will probably beat Caro on time. So that's a very good performance by Smuggler, and so Celestial could end up easily second in her division, which, you know, you've got to win your division first before you win the overall prize. So Smuggler's probably got the Division 1 sewn up, and I don't think she can be probably beaten for that spot. But there's Celestial just about to drop the sails, and she'll be with the folks in Constitution Dock in about 10 or 15 minutes.
Peter, then just recapping, that means that there are 76 yachts still racing of the original 103. 16 boats have retired, and we've now had 11 finishes. The most recent finishes have been Whisper just over an hour ago, and Caro and Smuggler, and now Celestial. But we've got about, 76 yachts still at sea, going all the way back to Sylph 6, which is just about to enter Bass Strait and still has over 400 miles to go. We've got to think of those people, because for a lot of those smaller boats, the aim now is just to make it.
Exactly, and for a lot of boats in this race, I think many went out knowing that they wouldn't win the race. It's an adventure for them. It's to introduce crews that have never raced a Hobart before, to give them the experience and to say, I've done a Hobart race. And realistically, I think a lot of the fleet just go along for the ride, as they say. A lot obviously are out there to try and win the race, but yeah, they're now strung out across Storm Bay and up the east coast of Tasmania, still in Bass Strait, and poor old Sylph just entering Bass Strait. And you know, she's, I don't know, 3 or 4 days away at least, I'd say. But the conditions have been tough again. Hard last night on the wind, and then this morning up on the east coast, up near Eddystone Point, St Helens, the breeze dropped out. It's now in the west, so they're making reasonable progress, but it's due to go back into the southwest tonight. So they'll be tacking down towards Tasman, but any west component in the breeze means a hard slog from Tasman to the finish. So, as always, these boats are going to find it very hard to get home quickly, and some of the tail enders, it's going to be 3 or 4 days before they actually finish. But at the moment, only 11 boats are in, and it's the breeze is still in the river. Behind us we can see the flags fluttering, but it's headwinds up the river, and we're hoping that Lisa is alongside Celestial, so we might go down to Lisa and see if she's got an update from those boys.
We're just trying to approach the yacht. Well, it's not the same finish as last year, but it looked like a tough race.
Yeah, it was. Oops, it's okay. Yeah, it went a lot longer than we would prefer, and there's so many different surprises, but it was good. Yeah.
And maybe tell us about that first night. That was pretty tough from what it looked like, from what we were getting, the images. But did you guys have an okay run?
Yeah, we didn't actually get hit by, the lightning storms weren't where we were. We got a lot of rain, but we also had some really good sailing as well, because we had a nice strong easterly breeze, and we could, blast reach and really make some miles up. And the best part of the race, really, apart from the storms, obviously, which we were just keeping an eye on the whole time. They were massive. So much energy in them.
Yeah, it was incredible, and I think you got an amazing crew here.
Yeah.
The guys just back in the studio were talking about them, but yeah, all safely in Hobart. You must be, not as happy as last year, but still pretty happy to get here.
Yeah, no, we were very, very happy, definitely. And yeah, not as happy as last year. That's pretty hard to top. But sailing with these guys, great bunch of guys, so skilled. There's the best sailors going around, and really, really good guys with it.
Well, we'll let you pack up, get to the dock, and get some warm food, and no doubt some drinks into you.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Thanks so much, and well done on another Hobart.
Cheers, thanks.
Lisa Darmanham, the Olympic silver medalist, part of our commentary team here for the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, there with Sam Haynes, the Vice Commodore of the Cruising Yacht Club. Well, he was upbeat, but it just wasn't their weather, Peter.
No, it wasn't. They really, from the start, the weather model said that these boats were going to struggle, and was always going to be a big boat race.
Well, No Limit is another boat that has been thereabouts, the 52-footers, and it finished this morning. So let's hear again from Lisa Darmanin.
Well, the 7th in the line honours is just about to dock David Goates' No Limit, the 63 Reichel Pew. So it's been a long journey for them. They'll dock in, but you can see there's still plenty of crowd here to cheer them on, and we'll give them a big cheer, and I'll go try have a chat to the crew after this.
Team did an amazing job. Just very lumpy seas, very short waves, really hard. Yeah. We did the best with what we could do in the circumstances where we were. So.
Decisions to change sails had to be snap decisions, even though it's a long race. You know, the wind shifts happen really quickly. Our crew, well, we had our fair share of like tangles and lots of sails up on the foredeck.
For the overall, who knows? Who knows? This is Hobart. You know, anything could happen yet.
And such was the weather, Peter. They were about 1.5 days slower than last year.
Yeah.
But a great effort there by No Limit, David Goates.
Yeah, well, David, a former president of Sailing Australia, and has put a lot into the sport, both on and off the water, and a very strong crew on this boat. And the boat was third to Alive in 2018, when she was known as Voodoo, and she's performed very well. And the crew, Steve Kemp's the navigator on his 25th race to Hobart. Steve's from Adelaide. Had Noel Drennan on board, won a couple of times Hobart's. Barney Walker, Julian Freeman, a well-known name in Hobart, the nephew of the late Graham Freeman, Frizzle Freeman. All those guys have won multiple Hobart races. Noel Drennan, as they call him Nitro, he's won the Round the World race on Ilbrook in the early 2000s. So a very, very good crew that David Goates put together. But again, that size of boat just didn't quite get the weather pattern that they needed to hang in there.
And you won line honours with Graham Frizzle Freeman, didn't you?
We did in 1979, yeah.
Yeah, well done. And I just see there that they, with No Limit, by the way, isn't that the sister ship to the former Hobart winner, Loki?
Loki, yes,
Yeah.
she's similar to Loki, yeah.
Very similar, yeah.
Reichel Pew design.
Yeah, let's go to the yacht tracker then, and particularly concentrate on some of the divisions. With so many boats still at sea, there are 76 still racing of the original 103, Peter.
Right, okay. Well, we'll go on to the standings at the moment, and there's the line honours standings. As we see here that Smuggler, it's 20 minutes behind actuality here, because it's not live for a number of reasons, but we've still got Celestial almost finished there. So we might have a look at the handicap situation, which is starting to get meaningful with a few more boats in. This won't change. Alive first, URM second, and Money Penny third, and Law Connect, the line honours winner. Not often you get a line honours boat up into the handicap placings. Well, she'll be fourth, not really a placing, but it's a pretty good performance. And Andu Comanche will be fifth. Then Margaret MRV will be potentially sixth, but she's still got 44 miles to go. And then Grant Warrington would be very happy with Wild Thing. She's at the moment in 7th position. So you can see all those divisional placings. They're Division 0. They're all the big boats have got in and really cobbled the top prizes. And if we have a look, Gordon, at the tracker itself, which actually shows where the various yachts are, we'll just go down to the east coast of Tasmania, and you can see the fleet, the majority of the fleet, are still stacked up close to the rum line or inshore of the rum line. They're running in northeasterly or northwesterly conditions, so very favourable as they approach Tasman Island. And you can see boats coming here, and there's boats in the around Tasman and in Storm Bay. I think Antipodes is there. That's Lindsay May on his 30th consecutive Sydney Hobart race.
50th consecutive.
50th, I'm sorry, Lindsay, I've done you short there. I'm sorry, but you can see that track. That green line is the actual track they're taking. So it's headwinds. They're all over the place. They're up and down. So it's headwinds across Storm Bay.
But you were right with 30th. Brad Kellett, who's the sailing master, is doing his 30th consecutive
Correct.
Rolex Sydney
Right. I knew someone was.
Yeah.
So really now what it means for these boats still at sea is the divisional prizes. And the fleet's broken into 5 divisions, or 6 divisions, depending on size.
What about back in Bass Strait though? There are still boats in Bass Strait on the tracker, on the map, and Sylph, I think, is just entering Bass Strait.
Yeah, we'll have a look at this now as we scroll down. There are all the retirements. Allegres
is still racing.
Yeah.
There was word that it had retired.
Yes.
In fact, it's resumed racing.
So she's 403 miles to go. She's 22 miles southeast of Green Cape, which is close to the entrance to Bass Strait. So she would have just put a toe into Bass Strait. Sylph is 26 miles southeast of Green Cape. So she's 402 miles to go. So the Cat still got a bit of pet food to eat before she or he gets to Hobart.
Allegres, by the way, in last place at the moment. They did temporarily suspend racing, but Michael and Tracy Carter have come from the Royal Port Nicholson Yacht Club in Wellington,
That's
New
right,
Zealand.
Port Nick, yeah. Well-known yacht club, produced a lot of great sailors out of Wellington. Jeff Stagg, well-known former Hobart winner from New Zealand, now residing in the United States. He was out of Wellington, and also Richard McAllister. Both were on New Zealand when they won in 1980. So, as New Zealanders do, produce a lot of great sailors, and there was a few of them aboard the Handicap Winner Alive.
Yeah, the first New Zealand yacht to compete in the Rolex Sydney Hobart was a boat called Ilex in 1946, Peter.
Yeah, were you here for the finish?
No, I think I was just a thought in someone's mind. But Ilex, actually, one of the previous group of owners were on the Lusitania in World War I and were torpedoed by a German submarine off the Irish coast. And that boat was eventually wrecked just off Tonga, and 17 survivors. They were marooned for about 3 months. But that's diverting. But that was the first New Zealand boat.
I'll take your word for all of that.
And they perished, unfortunately, when the Lusitania went down. So there we go. I think we've done the race tracker, and yeah. Well, Whisper finished, I'm looking at my clock, about nearly an hour and a half ago. An hour and a half ago, just after 3 o'clock. And I know you were watching from your hotel window, Peter. But yes, Dave Griffith, the board member, director of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia. He won the Mini Maxi Championship a couple of years ago. But again, I think they've had some problems. He's had a lot of bad luck this year.
Well, he certainly has. He's put a mammoth effort into getting this boat right. He's assembled a very good crew. They had absolute drama in August when they were competing in the Brisbane to Hamilton Island yacht race to go into Hamilton Island Race Week, and they ran into a whale doing 18 knots, and they went from 18 knots to almost dead stopped. A few injuries in the crew, including the Sydney Hobart race director Lee Goddard was on board. I think he broke a couple of ribs. People went flying everywhere, as you can imagine. This boat flying along and then coming to a dead stop. We don't know how the whale ended up, but serious damage to the keel. They had to take the mast out, had to take the rig away to get it tested, had to be sent back to Spain. The keel had to come off the boat, had to be trucked back to Sydney, and had to assess all the damage. So it was a massive job.
It was a convoy of trucks, actually. Yeah.
So very disappointing, and he has had some real bad luck, David, with this boat. They were 5th a couple of years ago, and they were really No Limit as a boat of similar size, but No Limit has beaten them quite convincingly in this race. But it'll be interesting to talk to David and the crew just to see how it all panned out for him. But I know he'll be very disappointed with the performance, but they're in, and that's the main thing. They're safe,
and
so
some
maybe
special people on board too. You mentioned that, Michael Coxon.
Yeah, Michael Coxon, the former boss of North Sails. Billy Merrington, Peter Merrington. He was one of the sailing masters for Griffo. His brother Anthony Merrington, youngster, he was aboard URM that got second. So youngster will have bagging rights over Billy Merrington in this race. But Billy was, and both Anthony were aboard Guelo for Matt Donald when they got second last. Andy Green was the navigator. A lot of the guys, Sam Hunt, who's previously won the race. Anthony Nossiter, former Olympian.
Three-time Olympian.
Yeah, so Griffo had put together a very good crew. Will he be back? Well, we'll find out over a beer tonight, I'm sure.
Well, the boat was built in 2009, designed by Udall Volek. Let's find out a little bit more about it, though, with the skipper. Here's Lisa.
Well, I'm aboard Whisper with owner David Griffith. Now, David, this is the ultimate racing yacht. It's looking pretty clean. Maybe give us a bit of a spiel about what goes on down here and where everything sits.
Sure. These boats are amazing. This boat was built at Green Marine in the UK in 2009. We're standing in a full carbon sandwich hull, and the section here underneath us is what they call the slamming areas, which takes the big load when you're smashing into waves. It gets a bit wet here. Right behind us is, behind this curtain, is the luxurious facilities, which are not too luxurious, as you can imagine. There's no refrigeration on these boats. It's simply just an insulated box. And for cooking, we have a little camp gas burner. All of our food is just dehydrated packets, and we put hot water in and leave it for a few minutes, and then you eat this delicious dehydrated food. It's a bit like hiking in the mountains.
Well, we're in the bedroom/nav station back here. Looks pretty comfortable.
Well, yes, it's a very glamorous part of the boat, and this is where our navigator spends most of his race, along with the tactician. And our navigator beside me here is Andy Green, who is becoming very rapidly a world-renowned navigator, having just won the Rolex Fastnet race.
But it must be pretty loud with all these winches going back and forth.
It is very noisy. We're a fully manual boat, so we don't run the engine except to charge the batteries. But when the guys are grinding on these winches, there's a lot of noise back and forth, so it's very hard to really get any decent sleep. You get a bit here and a bit there.
And are you looking forward to the race?
Oh, we always look forward to it. We all think we're mad. Why do we do this? And at the end of the race, people get off at Hobart and say, oh, that wasn't so bad, was it?
Yeah, well, great man, Peter.
Yeah, terrific guy, and a great skiff sailor as well, and now graduated into the yachts. But originally, Whisper was built as Jethu for Sir Peter Ogden in the United Kingdom, and then it was acquired by Rupert Henry, who's now racing in Mistral in the two-handed division. Rupert called the boat Chinese Whisper, and he sold that boat to David Griffith, and Griffo changed the name to Whisper. So
they won the Melbourne Osaka two-handed.
They did.
Smashed the race record by 5 days.
Rupert and Greg O'Shea.
Yeah.
Two guys sailed a 62-footer, 5,500 miles from Melbourne to Osaka. I mean, I couldn't sail a two-handed from across the river. I don't know how Rupert did it, but as we've said a couple of times, Rupert's an extraordinary short-handed sailor. But to sail a big boat like that, or any boat two-handed, it's a remarkable effort. But it's had a bit of history, that boat. It's done reasonably well in the Hobart before, but it hasn't quite ticked the box to win it.
Peter, you talked about the TP52s, and they've had a terrific battle. Smuggler and Caro were at each other's throats in the Derwent. Smuggler had led Caro for most of the race, really, so this was a titanic struggle.
Yes, it was. There's Smuggler, and this is a couple of hours ago when they were coming up, almost boat for boat. That's Smuggler there, just hitting a bit of a light patch. Crew on the rail and on port tack, and I think over behind her and to leeward, maybe slightly in front at this stage, is Caro. And there's Caro, there she is in the distance, and when she tacks she'd probably be in front of a Smuggler there. Caro, highly credentialed, won this year's Fastnet race, and I think I said in commentary a little earlier that she was trying to become the first and only boat to win the classic Fastnet race and the whole Hobart race in the 1 year, and no boat has ever done that, and only one boat has ever won the Hobart race and the Fastnet race. And that boat was Wizard. She was a Volvo 72. She won the Hobart race in 2016 as Giacomo, and she was the last New Zealand boat to win it. And she then was sold and became Wizard and won the Fastnet race. But here's Caro. Max Blink is the owner there, and he's representing the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. Few Australians on board, a lot of New Zealanders on board, and they bring a lot of credentials to this race, the New Zealanders. They've won it 4 times on corrected time, and Caro is trying to be the 5th boat to win it, but it wasn't to be this year, and she possibly 3rd in division, I think. a beautiful boat, and she's travelled the world, and of course winning the Fastnet race is no mean feat.
Yeah, state of the art, and the build was overseen by Justin Ferris from Doyle Sails in New Zealand.
Yep.
Built to win the World's Ocean Classics, and I'm sure she'll be back next year.
Yeah, well, she won Fastnet. She won a class in the Middle Sea race, which is another classic race out of Malta this year. She was put quickly on a ship after that, and then shipped to Sydney, and she arrived in early December, and they put the crew together. Wade Morgan, a well-known Australian, had a lot to do with that boat. Will Parker, another Australian on board. Justin Ferris, New Zealand, one of New Zealand's top sailors. But yeah, she'll take some beating if she comes back, that's for sure.
It certainly has been hectic. It's a roller coaster for a lot of the boats still out there, 76 in fact. Yeah. And Peter, we're going to now reflect on that unbelievable finish for Line Honours. It's always worthwhile going. People are still talking about it, I think all over the world. I think those images of those two 100-footers, it was a finish for the ages, and it'll be an iconic image forever in Sydney Hobart history.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, we had that close race in '82, but they weren't sort of live television. There was a few pictures, but it wasn't the action. We were on air. I looked yesterday, I think about 2.5 hours following them up the river. So we were there every inch of the way. And, of course, the inches played a part at the end of it, of course, 51 seconds.
Well, put your feet up and let's have another look. Excitement is building here because this is Andu Comanche, past the Iron Pot into the Derwent River.
Certainly is dying where we are right now. There's that big cloud line over where you guys are, and I think that's really what's killing the breeze.
And they're both in shot there. You can see that Law Connect has caught up, and there's good breeze where Law Connect is between her and Andu Comanche.
There's a real slimmer of pressure, and Law Connect is in it. That's the only place that there's ripples on the water right now. So they are in that. They've halved the distance again.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
This is amazing.
Look at Law Connect. There's a puff of breeze coming to her. This is not over by a long shot.
Law Connect has been throwing a few manoeuvres in here. They seem to be accelerating out of the jibes a lot quicker.
This is cat and mouse stuff here. See the aggressive jibe that Tony Mutter's putting in on Law Connect. Got the bow down. Can Law Connect lock Andu Comanche out, or vice versa? Wow, she's taken the breeze of Andu. That's what's happened. Law Connect's done it. They've put the bow across in front of Andu. There's the finishing buoy that just got a turn to starboard.
Extraordinary scenes here on the Derwent. Law Connect over the finishing line, just seconds ahead of Andu Comanche. We have seen the most incredible finish in the 78-year history of the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race.
Well, we spoke earlier this morning to Chris Lewis, who's a good friend of mine. He was the navigator on Law Connect, and obviously I saw him yesterday and congratulated him and before he went off to the pub. But he said this morning, he said that he was so wound up about the victory he couldn't sleep. He thought he was back on watch. So at 3:30, he got up out of his bed. He had his family here. He snuck into the toilet, sat on the toilet and watched the replay.
Too much information, Peter. Yeah.
He said he couldn't believe it, what great television it was, but he just had to watch it again.
I hope he had the toilet seat down.
I didn't go that far. I didn't go that far. But anyway, he just said it was amazing to watch it again, and he congratulated all the crew that got those shots, and he just said it was something that will live in his memory and the crew's memory for forever, really. But to bring it live like we did, he said extraordinary. And as he said, he sat there for 2.5 hours watching it. So heaven knows what his wife thought he was doing. So anyway, it was spectacular, whatever you want to call it. Wonderful, spectacular, extraordinary finish. It was.
Well,
you're right there, good.
You might need to do that next intro. But anyway, the last or the third 100-footer to finish was Grant Warrington. They were 6th across the line, and Peter G caught up with Grant earlier today. So, Peter G.
classifying the boat might prove a little bit difficult because it is said to be a new yacht, but actually there's a fair bit of a former yacht that we've seen here in Hobart before.
Yeah, that's right. We were able to use parts of the old boat and cut it and extend it. So, yeah, we sort of chopped it off here in front of the dagger boards and used the bow and fed it all in.
Take us for a bit of a tour. You've gone from Stefan Racing, which was 80 feet
80 feet long, yeah.
So and now it's 100 foot. Where's the new bit?
So there's a 4 metre new section in here. We cut 10 metres off the bow, moved it forwards 4 metres and built a new section in the middle and joined it all back together again. And then we added 2 metres on the back. Yeah. So we realised it needed more buoyancy in the front. So cutting it off here effectively moved the keel on the mast back by adding so much buoyancy in the front of it, right? So it made the boat, transformed the boat really. So it just sails beautifully now, bow up. You can push it as hard as you like downwind and it doesn't bury the bow in, so it's fantastic.
When we heard about what was being done, I sort of thought we might see a sort of a Frankenstein's monster when we got down here to Hobart, but it looks seamless.
Yeah, well, it's all fared in beautifully, actually. It's a little bit tricky because, of course, the boat's got more freeboard in the bow than the stern, so joining that in and getting all the lines to fare in nicely is actually quite a tricky job, but no, it's come up beautifully. We're very happy with the end result.
Yeah, apparently Grant was doing a lot of work in joining the pieces together, and a lot of the carbon fibre was still sticking out when they left Hobart, or just before they did. They had to smooth over the rough edges.
Yeah, I was following the progress of the boat and the massive job they did to get it to the starting line. And, you know, 6 weeks out, everyone's shaking their head and says, no way, Warro will get this to the starting line. But full marks to him, he did. It was the first race they had in the new configuration. And I think he'd be pretty pleased with the way the boat went. He said earlier today he was, and he'll be back next year, and he's won the race before on line honours. A great competitor, Warro, and he likes throwing a few unusual things around. So this boat was certainly unusual, and he went from 80 feet to 100 feet in a year. So he'll be back next year, and I think he'll
be very competitive.
He'll have a year to work it up, and he always puts a good campaign together.
Well, that was his 30th Sydney Hobart completed. And at the moment, we are looking at Teasing Machine, one of the international entries. And they are in the Derwent.
Yep, in the river.
And
they're reaching up, the double headsail rig, yep.
Yeah, beautiful shot from our drone here.
Yeah. Nelson Marrick, 54. Nelson Marrick, an American design team. You can see they've got a reaching jib top up there, and nice progress. We can see the storm clouds gathering over Hobart town. Now, Eric de Turckheim, very experienced French sailor, very well known owner-skipper. He's been very successful with this boat. He's won 2 transatlantic races with it, and he also won the Middle Sea race, the race out of Malta that we were referring to earlier in 2022. This boat was here in 2018. She finished 21st, and he was back in 2015 with a boat of the same name, Teasing Machine, and he won his division that year. So that's 8 years ago, but here she is now, just coming quite quickly up the river, and she's probably got about 6 or 7 miles to go to the finishing line.
Well, back in 2015, they were actually in very good shape to win the race, but again, the notoriously fickle Derwent River spoilt their chances. But he is the Vice Commodore of the Royal Ocean Racing Club, de Turckheim, and he's been crowned the overall winners of the transatlantic race twice, and in 2017 again, as you mentioned there, Peter.
Yes.
So terrific stuff there. And they've still got a way to go. It looks as though they've probably got about 7 or 8 miles to go, so we'll keep you posted there with Teasing Machine. Well, I think we're just about ready to go to our favourite feline, aren't we? Ollie the Cat. He has just captured everyone's imagination. Peter G was telling me that a young boy came up and said, when Ollie comes in, will we be allowed to pat Ollie? And well, I'm sure that's quite possible, but Hype TV has actually put in a special request to the Lord Mayor of Hobart to give Ollie the keys of the city. The keys of the city. So, and when Rob Williams does finish, I think he's going to be a bit like Kathy Veal and Bridget Hannam last year. And yeah, I think he's going to be a real hero.
Yeah, well, they got in at 20 minutes to midnight,
Yeah.
the last boat to finish last year. I think Bob and the Cat, they're going to be a bit later than that, I think.
Well, let's go on board with skipper Bob Williams and Ollie.
How you going, Ollie? Ollie's going well. How are you going, Bob? First afternoon out, variable conditions, lots of squalls. You can see all the clouds in the background. Wind vanes coping sometimes. A lot of sail changes. Ollie. Hey, mate. How are you? You having fun?
What a classic shot! If the looks could kill, and well, we mentioned that Sam Haynes was operating on cats just before he departed from Sydney. Sam Haynes, Celestial, the defending champion, and he held up the trophy, didn't he? The famous Tattersall Cup last year. And I wonder if he'll be holding up Ollie at some stage, maybe doing a final fitness check to clear Ollie with quarantine.
There's Sam.
Yeah. So well done, Sam. You might have some more official duties to perform. But Peter, yeah, you were going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, Gordon, just getting back to the finish of the Hobart race, I know you've had a lot of people have contacted you and just said how great the coverage was, and our great friend Peter Montgomery from New Zealand,
one of the great yachting commentators.
Yeah, absolutely. The voice of the America's Cup. He's been enthralled by watching, and he said to say how much he's enjoyed it. And Peter, not only a yachting commentator, he's been there and done that. He great friend of the late Peter Blake's. He was on Lion New Zealand when they won Lion Oz in '84. And he reckons it's the 4 worst days of his life. It was a horrendous race, and he coined the phrase "liquid Himalayas" in Bass Strait. He says he's never seen anything like it. He's trying to do reports back to New Zealand, and then we was with Grant Dalton on New Zealand Endeavour. So he's been a great friend of yours and mine, and a great friend of the sport of sailing.
And he's watching live.
He's watching live.
Yep.
So hello to you, Pete, and we wish you well and a happy New Year. I know it's been a tough one for you this year, but things are hopefully looking up for you, and hope you're enjoying the coverage, and who knows, one day you might be here alongside us, and let's hope so.
Let's hope so.
You might do out of a job, Gordon.
Yeah, well,
don't hope too much.
I'm very happy to hand over to the voice of the America's Cup, Peter Montgomery. But we thought we might have a little bit of fun with some of the texts that have been coming in, and we have found the jury has decided on the text of the day. And it comes from one Steve Roby in Asheville, USA, and he was watching our coverage this morning, and he's obviously referring to the two 100-footers coming into the finishing line, watching grass grow from Asheville, listening to 2 old guys having a good time in Hobart. At least, Peter, we're not 2 grumpy old guys.
Yeah, good on you, Steve.
So that one definitely wins.
Yep.
And also, we've decided on the quote of the day. We're going to encourage people to send in their suggestions, but
be careful what you wish for here, Gordon.
So the quote of the day, and this was in reference to Peter Shipway working out the mathematics with Alive and also URM, and how quickly Alive had to finish behind URM. And yes, I was very good at mathematics at school. Peter Shipway, Vaucluse Boys High. But we have to admit he was strongly challenged. He was strongly challenged by someone very close to him, and I mean literally close to him, who made the comment yesterday, and all Australian states and Tasmania. I can't really defend myself there, but in 1982 at the Commonwealth Games, the opening ceremony, I do recall they had a map of Australia, and would you believe they left Tasmania off the map of Australia? But we should also point out that Tasmania, back in the Ice Age, was actually joined to Australia. Anyway.
And that's when Bass Strait became shallow with all the sandhills.
Yeah,
what
all
have
the
sandhills?
And the big glaciers, Peter.
Glaciers,
yeah.
Well, you
I know
saw
you
those
like
the other night in the plane.
So, yeah, we'll be giving those awards each day now until the 31st, which will be a little bit of fun. Let's go to the race tracker. enough frivolity, and let's get down to the serious business. And where are we, Peter?
Well, we're on the handicap for the IRC, and nothing's really changed at the top of the leaderboard there. Kraken is the only boat. There's 2 boats out there that could get in and win, but they've got to finish within a couple of hours. They've got still 140 miles to go, so nothing will change in the top group there. We might look at the PHS system, which is brought to you by SailSys. They do the calculations for this, and this changes quite dramatically. She's the culprit now, is leading, but I must stress 165 miles to go. That's 30 hours away at best, really. And Mako second. They've been up there most of the way, and as has Oroton Drumfire, the beautiful 78-footer from Sydney. So
she's the culprit, Peter. By the way, it's from Newcastle Cruising Yacht Club and Lake Macquarie Yacht Club. It's a fun group of sailing friends from Newcastle. And as you say, they're really looking to perform well under PHS.
We might have a look at the 2-handers, Gordon, while we're at it. You take your hat off to anyone that's finished this race, but boy, these people that are sailing 2-handed or 2-handed and a cat, you've got to take a special welcome for those guys. We've got Showdown, Drew Carruthers and Jimmy Close, the man they call Mumbles. He's raced around the world 5 times. They've put themselves right up on top of the list there in front of Mistral. Mistral's 4 miles ahead of them, and Showdown is 4 miles astern. But a lot to play out there as well. Rupert Henry and Mistral, he's 117 miles. He's out off Cape Sonorat. He's quite close to the shore, actually. And Kraken 3 is 3rd on handicap. But
Showdown leading the way, Peter, from the Royal Queensland Yacht Squadron. Yeah. And Jim Close and Drew Carruthers. Jim, by the way, has competed in multiple round-the-world yacht races, including 2 editions of the Whitbread in the 1990s and also a Volvo Ocean race in 2001-2.
Yep.
So you're happy there with the...
look, I think it's just an indication. Yeah. Things are going to change dramatically over the next 24 hours as these boats get closer. And I think 140 miles to go in a 2-hander of, let's say, a 40-footer, that's... they'd be lucky to average 7 knots, so that's 20 hours. I'd say late tomorrow afternoon, there'll be a big lot of the fleet, and also tomorrow evening they'll be finishing. So by New Year's Eve, a lot of the fleet, I would think probably 80% of the fleet will be in. Yeah.
So Dave Flower and the Hype TV team here, I've got to say the coverage that they've produced, the pictures have been absolutely sensational, and I think we've had some wonderful praise coming from right around the globe. But a very good example of sort of exquisite visionary stuff that we've seen. The spectacle, I think, came when Moneypenny was in the Derwent River, Sean Langman. So let's now just have a look at what arrived there with Sean Langman. And our drone pilot here was Jono Whitty and James Bury from Sail Media. But amazing scenes here, and we really do take you on board. Well, one of your favourite lines, Peter. Wow! How good was that?
Fantastic. Yeah, really, really great footage.
And the other great footage we saw yesterday, and again it was tantalising. URM boys, the URM crew, they've turned Hobart upside down since they've arrived. They look to be in the box seat. I think they were leading by about 8 miles at one stage from Alive, the Tasmanian entry, but gee, they found some extra wind, and they sailed a magnificent course across Storm Bay and into the Derwent, and Duncan Hine and Alive are the unofficial handicap winners. They can't be beaten now, but let's just recap on that tantalising finish yesterday here on the Derwent. And it looks as though it's down to URM and Alive of the Pocket Maxis, Peter Shipway, who are going to really fight out this handicap situation.
She's probably got about 8 miles to go, and she stepped away from Alive coming across Storm Bay, so she's really in the box seat now. She's got a convincing lead over Alive.
Wind is really quite patchy out here, and they've done a couple of jibes already to make sure they're staying in the pressure.
They're just doing a jibe now, an inside jibe, so those asymmetrical spinnakers, rather easy to jibe than the old conventional spinnaker pole.
It's not all over. Alive will appreciate these conditions as well once she gets her spinnaker up. Looking across to the eastern shore of the Derwent River.
And probably looking astern for Alive.
The question will be is when Alive pops their head around that corner, but I still think, as you saw this morning, they'll catch up, but they'll hit this light spot.
Oh, she's just stubbed her toe there. She's run out of wind. Now, is this river starting to play tricks again on us here, Gordon?
So, again, drama is building.
I've just spotted Alive pop their head around the corner. They're in plenty of breeze up there, and I'm pointing directly at us. So, yeah, we have a bit of a race on our hands.
And they would know. They'd have the clock running. They would know how much they've got to beat Alive by. They're looking now towards the finishing line. They're on a straight course to the finish at Battery Point, I'd say.
And what an exhilarating experience for URM and this crew.
Well, here's Alive. Okay, here she comes. She is powering up the river. She is in really good pressure. She's come right up the middle of the river. Boy, she's looking in good shape at the moment. How far behind is she? This is the key to it. Heartbreak here for one of those boats. Down to a couple of knots. And look at this. Here comes Alive. A massive speed difference.
There's the gun from the Castro Esplanade box. Have they done enough to win the race on handicap?
URM just have to sit there and watch the clock.
Well, they're pretty close to the finishing line.
Yeah, but look, there's no breeze. It's just
breeze.
quit. It's just collapsed. They just need... Oh, gee, they're not far off this finishing line, Gordon.
Yeah, they're very close to the finishing line.
They're just starting to pick up a bit of breeze now.
I think they're going to do it, Peter.
God, this is a cruel race, isn't it? It really is a cruel race.
They're only about 40 metres away, Peter, but they're over the line. Alive is the handicap leader in the 2023 Rolex Sydney Hobart. Unofficially.
Yes, well, it certainly was enthralling, and I know all of the URM group and certainly Alive managed to find their way to the Customs House Hotel.
Yeah. Well, they got the job done, Alive, and top marks to them. But just as we finish up here, Gordon, the next couple of boats to finish, as we saw earlier, Teasing Machine, she's in the river, and around Tasman is Antipodes with the veteran Lindsay May on board. He's got a party organised upstairs at the Customs House. I shouldn't be broadcasting this, but for anyone that's ever sailed with Lindsay, they're welcome to the party upstairs at the Customs House tomorrow at lunchtime. And the next boat after them will be Bumblebee 5. She's the 2001 winner. And aboard Bumblebee 5, owned by Paul Blakely, is his new son-in-law, Billy Gosper.
Wow,
so
wow.
I hope they're still talking, and I hope he's still married when they get across the finishing line. But a lot of boats have family connections on board. We've seen fathers and daughters and fathers and sons, brothers, and it's that sort of race that attracts those sort of people and those crews. So still, as you know, only 11 boats have finished. It's quite remarkable. Here we are late on the 29th of December. But tomorrow we'll see a big influx of boats coming in, probably around after lunchtime, and then certainly tomorrow night, and then into New Year's Day.
Peter, I'll be
New Year's Eve.
I'll be the one interloper at Lindsay May's party. His wife Tanya actually slipped me an invitation, so I'll be the only person there who hasn't sailed with Lindsay May. So, yeah, special exemption.
Would you feel embarrassed? You probably do.
Not at all. Not at all. No. I'll wear my Rolex jacket and look official.
Sign a few autographs.
And just run off you, really. Okay, that winds up our coverage, and we'll be back again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And remember, 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. every day we'll have live reports from dockside here in Hobart in the Rolex Village. And you can follow us all on social media, but it's CYCA TV. Go straight to that if you're having trouble picking us up. Google it, CYCA TV, and you'll get straight to the right link. So on behalf of Peter Shipway, Peter G, Lisa Darmanham will sign off again from Dockside here in Hobart. See you tomorrow morning.